I actually hope that this is the group that's going to stay for happy hour with me, is what I hope you guys are. But I am happy to be here, and I'm going to ask you to do a favor for me really quick. I want you to go back into your mind that very first time that you thought you were going to be something when you grew up, something in a career, probably around the age of 9, 10, or 11. In fact, I wanted to be a news broadcaster, and my father sent me to news broadcasting camp. I came back, and he said, "How do you like it?" And I said, "I hate it." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "I thought you worked 30 minutes a day," and that's not the case. It's not what they do. But I want you to think about what that first thing is that you wanted to do, and I want you to just quickly, for 10 seconds, look over to the person that you're looking at and introduce yourself as your name, but as if you had that career. So I would be like, "Hello, my name's Melissa Luke. I work for Channel News as Channel 7 News for an anchor." So do that really quick for me. I just want you to just turn to your right really quick. Run with it. All right. We all have new careers now. We all have new careers. How many of you are actually doing what you thought you would do? Anybody? One person. All right, I think I'm the closest because I was looking for a 30-minute career. Clearly, I have a 20-minute career, so I'm getting there. I'm done doing it. Well, I had actually a firefighter in Colorado. I was training the Firefighter Association, and this one gentleman, big, huge, brawny, husky firefighter, I said, what did you want to be when you were little? And he said, "I wanted to be a unicorn." And he said he still wanted to be one, so there we have that. But there is a reason why I asked you that. A lot of people are not happy in their careers, and I want to tell you quickly why I do what I do. I went to Arizona State University with my best friend, Krista Krantz, who is up here on the board. She studied political science. She was a 4.0 student. I studied happy hour. I was also a 4.0 student in what I did as well. But something sad happened. She ended up getting cancer in her liver, and she ended up getting cancer in her rib cage, then to her breasts, and then to her brain. And before we graduated, she was dead in the ground. Never did drugs, never did anything to die of cancer. That changed my life and careers for the rest of my life. And I said, I am never going to go into a job that I don't like. And I have not. In fact, if you looked at my resume right now, you'd think I was 147 years old. I leave. I am like the millennials. If I don't like my job, I go to the bathroom, I climb out the window, and I don't come back. I really don't. So I started studying careers. I am also a college professor now. Well, actually, I resigned after 13 years. As of last week was my last semester as a professor. But I study careers. I go into companies, and I increase the morale of the companies because I worked in a lot of industry areas, or actually I had one of the very first online trading companies, multimillionaire at the age of 27, bankrupt at the age of 32. So I've got quite a character of personalities, but I started studying people that were miserable and studying people that were happy. Worked for the Treasury for a while. I just have a little collective group of jobs that I've done. And I want to show you these startling statistics. 80%, and this is the United States, 80% of the current population in the United States do not currently like their careers. That is an enormous number, 80%. 75%, this number comes from Harvard. They found a study that 75% of a manager's behavior flows right down into their employees. So if you're managing somebody and you're cantankerous, then they're going to be cantankerous. How many of you have children in here? Do they turn out to be like you? They do. So when you're managing people, how many of you thought you'd have 50 little children when you went to work? They do. They turn out to be mini me's of you. This other number here is from a statistic that I pulled in my college university classes over the last 13 years. 7 out of 10 of them do not like their jobs within 2 years after they graduate. So they don't really know what in the world they want to do at the age of 18 years old, and they come out still not really knowing what they want to do, and they're not happy. So I thought, well, gosh, this is a great job that I have, is just kicking out, tell everybody, 30% of you are going to love your job, the other 70% sucks to be you. You know, that doesn't sound great. So I went on a mission to try to figure out how to raise these numbers. And this is the startling one. There should be a dot there. 6.7. This is a number I'm going to ask you to lock into your head for the 45-day challenge. I asked the last 3,000 managers across the United States. This is a nice random sample because I do publicly traded companies, private companies, nonprofit. I do smaller companies, large companies, all sorts of different companies, but they're all middle to upper management that I'm training. And I asked them this one question. Out of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you hate your job so much you have to give yourself self-affirmations in the shower to go to work in the morning. A 5 is I'm just too lazy to get my resume onto Monster.com or LinkedIn or whatever I want to do. I'm going to work. Or a 10 is I love my job so much I can't go to work the next day. This is 3,000 people polled. The average was a 6.7. At the academic level, that's a D. So let's wrap this back up. 80% of the current workplace does not like their job. 75% of their behavior is going down into the employee workplace, and we're operating at a management level at a 6.7. Yikes. No wonder people are having problems. How many of you think that everybody just picked the wrong job, and that's why we have job dissatisfaction? How many of you think it's the people around you that are making you miserable at work? A couple of you. How many of you are that person that's making people miserable at work? So this is where I started my research. I started looking into what can we do to fix this. And I started with looking at my university students because they're the perfect beta test. Professors, I have to say that I left because I don't think highly of the academic institution anymore. At one point, Sir Ken Robinson said this. He said, 20 years ago, you went to school to get a job. And you were basically guaranteed a job, and he said he didn't want one, but at least you could get one if you went there. These days is a little bit different, and we don't train people, we don't educate, we don't tell anybody about how their mind works. We teach them how to fill out multiple choice tests, and that's not going to help you in the world of corporations. We're just not doing a lot for them there. And I think that we could actually focus in. So the last 5 years, I've been training my students' brains. I could care less about a multiple choice test, and I could care less if they fill out an essay. I want to teach them how to love what they do when they come out of the university level. So I use them as guinea pigs, and they know it. So we have a lot of fun in this class. I stopped teaching the class 5 years ago as a class, and I turned it into a company. So when the students came into my class, I said, you work for a company. If you don't show up, you don't get paid, which is equivalent to not getting a grade. So it's the same thing, same concept, but I pulled in a lot of different techniques over the last 5 years. Just to give you some examples, because I also do this at the corporate level as well, I have them all take the Strength Finder test. I think somebody was talking about that this morning. Have them take the Strength Finder test to hone in on those 5 top talents. Of course, I have them read my book, because all professors write books, so their students will buy them, because nobody else will. But that's a good thing to do there. I have them read Ricardo Semler, Maverick, which I know many of you in the management industry have read. It's a great book, and my students have begged me not to take it out in 10 years. So if you have not read Maverick, I would highly suggest it, from Ricardo Semler. But we go into the brain, and this is where we really don't focus on. We should be teaching this in 2nd grade, but we don't. And what's going to shock you is you can increase the employee morale in your company very quickly, very simply. This is not any shocking data. It just took me a long time to figure out what happens. But if you tell people to study themselves, they will pull themselves up. Even higher management will do this. So I want you to look inside of a brain. There are 3 elements that you have to teach people about what happens in their brain. Because typically, we tell people it takes 21 days to create a habit. But no one knows why it takes 21 days to create a habit. So we want to look inside here. What does it really happen? You've got emotions. In fact, there's people that are in bad moods and good moods. Your body kicks out emotions. Has anybody said that there's just somebody cantankerous in their life? Somebody that's always in a bad mood? They are. They're putting themselves in a bad mood. It's an opiate. That when you actually feel good, you put an opiate in your body. You can come to Amsterdam and get it for free, or you have to think about it to put it in your body in the United States. And conversely, you have these other chemicals in your body, so you need to learn how to run emotion in your body. I'm going to give you 2 examples quickly so you can see what you can do with your brain as I move forward, because this is a 20-minute speech where I just have to give you the nuts and bolts so you know how to do this. But we had a study done with a bunch of college students, again, because they're easy to play with. We gave them rubber bands. We said, pull this rubber band for 20 minutes a day for 3 weeks. And we measured the strength in their finger. And we found what the strength was before and then after. And we found that they increased the strength of their muscle by about 32%. We had a second group of people come in, and they had to hold their hands and not pull the rubber band, but only think about pulling the rubber band. So they had to have their head closed like this, their eyes, and pull a rubber band. Who would do this for credit? Who would do it? Can anybody guess if there was an increase in muscle strength? Yes. Absolutely. You guys are bright. See, you are. It's very close to actually the first study of the people that really pulled the rubber band. So you can grow muscle strength through thought. That is the primary thing I need you to remember in here. There's another study that I'm going to skip through the details of it, but a bunch of people, college students that had never played the piano before, we wired their head to see what existed in there to begin with. Not a lot, but there's stuff. And then we had them play the piano. We looked back in there, and there's a whole new cluster of stuff. It's called a neurological network that was inside their head. We then had another group of students just simply watch the piano players learning how to play the piano. They couldn't touch it. And they had very similar neurological networks that had built out in their heads. Then we had a bunch of people that just showed up and were like, play whatever you want to for the same duration. Nothing went on there because repetition did not exist. So to build emotion, to build your brain, you have to have 3 components. You have to have the belief that it can happen. So you have to believe that you can build mass in your head by thinking. You have to run it by repetition. And you have to believe the factor that it will happen. It will happen over the course of a lifetime. So you got to have that emotion, the belief, and the repetition. Let me tell you how all of you are the way that you are. You have a thought. You start out with a thought in your head. If you have that thought for a little while, you're in a mood. If you're in a mood for 2 or 3 days, you end up having a habit. Maybe 21 days later, now you have this thought that turns into a mood that's now a personality or a habit, and then the next thing, 2 weeks later, it's your personality because you've done it over and over and over again. That's what the inside of your brain looks like. So you have billions of neurological networks. They're like Christmas tree lights that have been ripped off your tree, wrapped up in a ball, and thrown in a box. That's what a neurological network looks like. So these little dots up here, these are called neurons. And they hold all sorts of things together, such as synapses. Then it balls together, and that's a thought. So let me walk you through this. Follow these sights and sounds with me really quickly. Take a bite out of crisp green apple and hear the crunch in your ear. Or take a bite out of hot apple pie with melted ice cream on top. Or pet the top of your favorite animal, that head, the fur. I don't know if you have snakes. I don't know what that feels like, but feel that fur. Or a baby, touch the back of a baby. Or shake the hand of a man that's been gardening for 80 years, has calloused hands, has a twinkle in his eye, and has loved what he's done all of his life. Now raise your hand if you've actually had that experience. Raise your hand if you've shaken the hand of that man. About 20% of you. Did anybody else have a problem pulling that visual up? No, because you were borrowing from neurological networks that already existed in your head to build something that didn't exist. How many of you, was he wearing clothes? Did you picture him? You have not met him, but he's wearing clothes, so you have that down. So you borrowed from different neurological networks, and you created your own network. So what we're going to do is create a network for you before you leave. I'm going to give you the basics. But this is what has worked at the academic level, and this is what has worked in the corporate level as well. Building a muscle in your brain is just like building your muscle in your arm. So if you were to go to the gym and you were to pick up a barbell once and put it down, would you build any muscle mass? No. But if you went into the gym 3 weeks in a row and picked that barbell up every single day, would you build muscle mass? Exactly. Your brain is the same type of tissue. Mass is mass. So if you put this into your brain, if you actually look at yourself, we're going to use you as an example for the 45-day challenge, and I'm going to give you this challenge. If you cannot increase your thought process in 45 days, I will pay you $100. I've never had to pay anyone $100 to this day, and I offer this challenge all over the place. So if you take the challenge and you're serious about it, I will have a discussion with you if you fail. But I know you can do it because you have to put the thought in. And we're going to build something out after you leave that's going to be fun for you. But the repetition is what needs to happen. These neurological networks will not grow, and it will not become your reality unless you use the repetition. So this is what we do at the corporate level. We sit down and we go back to the basics in life. And we fill out something called a YOMO, which I'm going to forward to in a second. We go back to the basics of what makes people happy to build that neurological network. And here's where it gets a little tricky. Most people don't have a mission statement in life. They have a mission statement in their company. So if you tell your people inside your organization to think about themselves for a couple of hours and really sit down and process this out, if they have a mission statement, my mission statement is to always love what I do. So can I work at any company in the world and still be on track with my mission statement as long as I'm happy? Yes. Most people will make a goal in their life. So they'll get to, well, they'll make $275,000 a year. Well, what happens when you hit that goal? You have nowhere else to go. So your mission statement needs to be something far out so you can die, and it's still there. So then we look at the career and the family balance ratio. We have to look at careers. In fact, Christian Christensen is from Harvard University. He had this keynote address with his Harvard University students. He said, 4 of my Rhodes Scholars that I went to school with, he went to Oxford University and he also went to Harvard, he said ended up in prison. One of them being Jeffrey Skilling. We're talking about Enron this morning. He had no intentions on bankrupting the largest corporation in the United States, I'm certain, after going to Harvard, but he did so. And he said, what happens is we don't look at balance. And he said, I come back 20 years later to reunions at Harvard, and people are divorced, and their children are estranged from them, and they don't have good careers. And it's because we don't teach the simple concept of what it should look like in your brain before and after you leave school, or what it should look like even when you go to work every single day. So if you guys build the concept in your head so it works with you, you can take it on to anybody. That's why I'm saying this is so simple. If you could break down what it looks like to be happy, and the reason why it's inside of something called a YOMO, which is your opportunity to matter for others, is because the feeling and the visual has to be trapped into one place so it doesn't float away. So it has a very distinct visual that you can pull. And this is what I played with the students and 45-year-olds in upper management. I have them drawing in crayons and coloring these things, and they actually enjoy it. So you want to steal somebody else's personality as well. All of us cannot be perfect personality types. So you might want to steal somebody else's that has a little bit more for you. And then you're going to look at your spirituality, which whatever it is, I'm a Christian, so whatever I do, I have to have those guidelines that align with my Christianity. But you will fill out something called a YOMO. Look at that visual for 45 days. At night when you go to sleep, and in the morning when you wake up, and you look at what your perfect career with your family would be balanced like. And I'm going to give you the steps if you are willing to take the challenge, since we don't have time to go through all the steps. If you're willing to take the challenge, you should email me, and I will send you the 12 steps in detail, the PDF of the college book, which takes about 3 hours to read. If you take the challenge, I think you will all find that you will then be able to teach the same thing to the people in your organizations, and you'll be able to look at college university students and ask them some critical things, because this is the only thing that they said has made them happy inside an organ or in a university class. So with that being said, I want to show you one thing that just launched yesterday. It's a clip, so you don't have to listen to me talk anymore, but I have been asking some critical questions of my university students and the corporate arena as well, to get them to deeply think before they start building their YOMO about the core values of their life. Well, I have a brilliant event booking coordinator who actually loves music so much that he did such a wonderful job backing music into the questions that I asked my students that they put it together, and this was just put on YouTube today. But the last thing that I wanted to tell you about when I was testing on all these markets is that charity was the one thing that I found heightened everything in the classroom setting and in the organizational level. So if I had them run a company, come into the company, but I allowed them to break out in teams of charity and actually build charity concepts in the middle of the class while they're building the company, it raised the class exponentially. So I just wanted to let you know that whoever was saying that the millennials are very charitable driven, They absolutely are. And if you let them in your organization and you let them run with their own ideas instead of saying, we only support the goodwill and you cannot go out of this, they don't like that. I did that with them. I can tell you from myself that they don't like that. So if you actually let them do what they want to do and team out with people and have games inside organizations, they love it. So work on charity and game building inside your organizations, and even the adult group such as myself and older really enjoys it because they all find their own places to sit there. With that being said, thank you so much for having me here in Amsterdam, and I look forward to seeing you at some other time.